People keep asking what's wrong with men. Why are men not committing? Why are they not marrying? Why are they stepping back? That question assumes the problem is inside people. But women are stepping back too, just from a different angle. What if the problem isn't personal at all? If completely different cultures produce the same direction of change, the cause is probably not character. It's probably structure. Let me show you what I mean. In the US, marriage feels risky. In 2023, the marriage rate hit 6.0 per 1,000, less than half of what it was in 1970. Not because people stopped wanting love, because the contract around it changed. Divorce doesn't just end a relationship. It can mean asset division, alimony, custody battles, consequences that last years after the feeling is gone. Meanwhile, dating shifted into an attention market. Apps made everyone visible, but visibility isn't selection. A small percentage absorbs most of the interest. The rest send messages into silence. Effort doesn't guarantee outcomes. And when outcomes feel random, people start questioning whether the game is worth playing. Now add economic pressure. Median home price passed $400,000, student debt passed $1.7 trillion, healthcare tied to employment. And marriage stops looking like a relationship. It starts looking like a contract, with unclear upside and very clear downside. So men hesitate. And increasingly, so do women. In Europe, marriage feels optional. In France, over 60% of children are born outside marriage. In Sweden, the number is similar. Not because families collapsed, because the institution lost its monopoly. The state absorbed many of the functions marriage once held. Cohabiting partners get legal protection. Children born outside marriage carry no stigma. Social safety nets don't require a ring. You can live together, raise children, build a life, without signing anything. When marriage becomes one option among many, it has to justify itself against the alternatives. And for a lot of people, the alternatives are good enough. They don't reject it, they just don't need it. So they delay, or never arrive. In East Asia, marriage still carries weight. Respected, expected, culturally meaningful. But it got expensive. In South Korea, the term spec originally meant resume qualifications. Now it applies to marriage. Housing in Seoul, stable income, career trajectory, family approval, education plans for children who don't exist yet. Marriage isn't one decision, it's a checklist. And until every box is checked, the door doesn't open. In China, bride price expectations persist across regions. In Japan, long work hours leave little room for dating, let alone building a partnership. And women across the region are renegotiating too. Because marriage can still mean unequal domestic labor, career sacrifice, the expectation to disappear into a household. South Korea's feminist movement didn't emerge from nowhere. It emerged from those terms. Both sides are hesitating, for different reasons, at the same gate. 3 regions, 3 different pressures, same direction. Not because of one universal cause, but because structural friction, wherever it appears, produces the same behavioral response: withdrawal. The pattern runs on 4 axes. Cost goes up. Not just money, time, energy, opportunity. The price of being wrong. Risk goes up. Not just divorce. Uncertainty about roles, about fairness, about what happens when things fall apart. Trust goes down. Not just in people, in the system. The rules, the expectations, the predictability of outcomes. When people don't trust the structure, they hesitate to commit inside it. Alternatives increase. You don't need a partner to fill your evening anymore. Work, screens, hobbies, loose social networks. None of them replace intimacy, but they reduce the urgency to find it. The US scores highest on risk. Europe scores highest on alternatives. East Asia scores highest on cost. All three are moving on all four axes, just at different speeds. And once urgency disappears, everything slows down. Fewer meetings, fewer relationships, fewer commitments, then fewer families, then fewer children. This gets called a birth rate problem, but that's the last domino. The first one fell much earlier. For a long time, marriage was carried by systems. Stable jobs that started at 22 and lasted. Housing you could afford on a single income. Shared cultural scripts that told you when, how, and with whom. Those systems bore part of the weight of commitment. The individual only had to show up. Now the systems have thinned, and the full weight falls on two people, who have to negotiate everything from scratch. Roles, finances, labor, identity, with no template and no safety net. That's not a moral failing. That's a design problem. So the real question is not, how do we convince people to marry? The real question is, how do we make commitment make sense again? You cannot shame people into families. You cannot guilt people into risk. People respond to incentives, to structure, to reality. And right now, reality is saying, be careful. This is not collapse. This is withdrawal. Quiet, rational, distributed. No protests, no dramatic refusal. Just fewer people choosing the path, year after year, until the road is empty and someone finally asks where everyone went. America made marriage feel risky. Europe made marriage feel optional. East Asia made marriage feel heavy. Different roads, same destination. This was never just about men, and it was never just about women. It was about the structures. People are expected to build a life inside, and whether those structures still deserve that trust. So, what does it look like where you live? Does this feel accurate or completely different? Thanks for watching.